Hey everyone, Ryan from Ebike Escape. We're back with Matt from All About Bikes, and in this video we're talking everything derailleurs. So let's get into it. Before we get started with the video, if you're looking to purchase any electric bike and you found this video helpful, check out the links in the description. Using those links is a free and easy way to help support the channel and cost you nothing. Thank you so much for your support. We'll also have some helpful resources down in the description, our popular electric bike accessories list, top e-bike brands page, and finally our electric bike discounts code page, where we track all the deals on the electric bike brands that we follow. With that, we're going to be talking about a derailleur, specifically on the electric XP 3.0, but this video is going to apply to virtually any derailleur that you might have on your electric bike. And we're back with Matt, who has way more experience. How many years?
17 years now in the industry, yeah.
So 17 years, and of course he has more experience on more high-end bikes, but he's willing to work on a Shimano tourney derailleur, which is on the more entry-level side of components that Shimano offers. But I think this video will be proof that they still work for recreational riders and of course can be adjusted. So with that, I think we should jump into all the common problems that you might have on a derailleur, especially if you're looking to adjust one. So we will timestamp this video so you can jump to whatever section you're most interested. We're going to start off with some derailleur basics Matt's going to run through.
Yeah, so first off, I want to say this is the rear derailleur. Now this piece here, that's protecting it. So right here is the rear derailleur. And one thing that I really want to let people know starting off too is like how it's routed around. I have seen it from the factory every once in a while to where it's routed improperly. So the big thing is that it comes around the sprocket, comes down around this sprocket or cog, if you will, and when I see it improperly run, it's kind of hooked through here, or could have another problem through this juncture. But you can press it forward like that, and that spring tension is what helps it shift. So we're gonna go around this one, down through here, and out through here, and you really got to make sure that it's underneath this little flange as well. So that's the basic routing of it. And if you're ever uncertain about it, you can look at another bike or look at something online, this video. But that's a good place to start. And then, shifting the bike. I know it seems like basics, but that's what we're talking about here. So we've got the thumb shift here, which is going to send it to an easier gear. And then this is going to send it, the plus right here, to a harder gear. And what you see when you're doing that back here, I'll have you move the camera over there. So the thumb is going to be to the easier gear, and it shifts up. And then the plus is going to go to a harder gear, and it's going to shift down through the range. And with the tourney, you're going to see a little bit maybe slower shifting than you would from, a more mid or high level derailleur. So the way that that's shifting is not abnormal for a tourney, being that it is kind of entry level. It's not going to shift real fast, but it is going to shift into that next gear. But that's the basics of it, going up and down through the range.
So now let's jump into some of the problems that you might be experiencing on any electric bike with a derailleur. What should we check first, or what should the user check first?
So there's a variety of things. Sometimes in shipping, this cage here could get bent into the derailleur, and that could cause the shifting to be out of whack. And the derailleur itself could have got bent in shipping, or sometimes they're just, from the factory, it's a warranty type of thing. So if something in here isn't in alignment, that could cause the shifting problem. And then probably the biggest one that I see is this little piece right here. We got one over here to show you what it looks like off the bike. But this piece here could have gotten bent at some point, and even the slightest little bit on that piece will cause the shifting to be thrown by enough to where you're going to notice it. It's going to probably make some grinding or some clicking noises when going through the range. So those are some common things that I see on these to kind of check for. As a mechanic, I always say that looking at the basic overview of the picture first, like, oh, is there anything big that might be the problem before we start with the fine little details of it. So in this case, the derailleur hanger looks straight from the back. The derailleur actually looks pretty straight. This piece doesn't have any bends or kinks in it. Another good one to check is just see if any of the paint is like chipped, or if there's anything that looks like it might have been, used already or hit. So just look for those common things. I remember my brother-in-law told me that the best tool out there is good lighting and a good set of eyes, like when you're starting to look at things. So I would start there.
And I would say from personal experience, now I am not a bike mechanic, but I do get a lot of e-bikes shipped to me, and I don't necessarily want to always bother Matt with any issues. But most often with the derailleur, this guard here, you might have shifting in the higher gears or easy to pedal gears. That might just work just fine, but as you get to the higher gears or the lower cogs, that's when the derailleur can bump into that. So that solution is a simple bend of this to get it out of the way, or completely remove it if you prefer. Now with the derailleur hanger, that's something that you will want to enlist a bike mechanic such as Matt. Maybe Matt, you want to show off the tool just so people have an idea of what kind of tool you would need to make that adjustment, which is usually the first step. Second step, obviously you can always buy a separate hanger. Electric has those in stock, so you can contact them as well. But if you wanted to, say, bend it back, that's something you're going to need to bring to a bike shop to get sorted out by a professional.
Yeah, it's not a cheap tool, as far as that goes, and it does take a little bit of skill to align a derailleur hanger. Everyone always talks about inches, but we're in millimeters in the bike industry, and in order for it to shift well, you're going to need it to be right in the ballpark on there. So anyways, that's the tool that we'd need to do it. All right, so we're fortunate enough to have this nice bike stand to put it in and check and make sure that it's going into the gear that we command it to up here. So I'll start off in the smallest one, which would actually be your hardest gear. And we're just going to go ahead and hit it up. And if it's a little slow like that, you may need to adjust your barrel adjuster to get it to go up your range a little bit better. And I can show you how to do the adjust here too. So this little threaded piece, if we actually unscrew it, it pulls cable tension on here and it would bring it up through the range. So I've already commanded it to shift up to there and it's not quite shifting, right? So if we take maybe a half turn or so, and still not yet, we can get it to go with a little bit more. So we've got that to where it went up to the next gear now. We get a little bit of rubbing sound, so we might need to bring it back down just a little bit to where that rubbing sound goes out. And I did just a quick little half turn. A lot of little adjustments in the bike industry too. A lot of people tend to go like a full turn or a couple turns. Half turn, quarter turn is what we're looking for to get it to go. So, and it's tricky because I'll come behind the bike like where Ryan's shooting from, and I'll take a look when I'm adjusting this to see if I need to go either down the range or up the range. But the neat thing is the barrel adjuster, if you twist it in, it brings it down. If you twist it out, it brings it up. So I'll just go ahead and mess this up a little bit for the sake of the video. I just randomly started turning that. So we've got, now when we shift, it's making noise everywhere and it's skipping around. So then I would come back here on the bike, and if I look, and actually if we get the camera on there, you can see that this cog, or the pulley on the derailleur, is not in line with this cog that it's on. So I can see that an adjustment right here is gonna bring it into more of an alignment. So we can pedal that real quick and see if that helps. See, already we're getting that smooth sound, and that's just from kind of eyeballing it and then making the adjustments. So once again, turning this in is going to bring it down through your range. Turning it out, it's going to bring it up through the range.
From my perspective, again, when I receive a lot of the bikes, I will go through the various gears and make sure it's at least shifting properly. Now, I'm usually out on a test ride, so what I'll do is I'll actually lean it over on the kickstand, tilt the bike, pedal quick, go through all the gears, and sometimes, as Matt said, it's just a simple twist, even a little bit of that barrel adjuster, and a lot of times that's all that's needed for me personally to get through all the gears.
Yeah, so I would say, you know, adjusting through the barrel adjuster like this is, you could even get lucky just by the sounds of it. Even if you don't see the sight and the visual of it, you could turn it, you know, a quarter turn. Just make sure you're keeping track of which direction you're trying to turn it. But you could get lucky even by a quarter turn at a time, take it for a test ride. Oh, maybe not quite right. Another quarter turn in that same direction. The only risk of that, and I would want to go ahead and shift it all the way up and show you. So we already ended up setting the limit screws, and those ought to be set for you from the factory or from the manufacturer. Doesn't mean that they're always perfect, but that prevents it from like over shifting to into your hub, in this case, into your wheel. Fortunately, they have a little bit of ramps up here to where like it might not, it would still get stuck back there. So what those do is prevent the derailleur from overshifting. And this is one that I'll probably not have people participate in, but as a check that I like to do as a mechanic, I'll hold it here and kind of push it with my thumb to see if it can physically overshift. And it can. So then the limit screw is not limiting the derailleur enough. So then I'm going to go ahead and give it just like a quarter turn, maybe even a little less. And then I'm going to see if I can actually physically push that over. And you can do that just with your thumb, like just on this part. There's a lot of moving parts on here, so I don't want to have anyone pinch their hand. But typically I can get 2 fingers on there and just a little push of the thumb. But so then what I like to try and tell people too is like your cable tension will tell it how it can go in this range of gears, and you can get it to shift. But your limit screws are what prevents it from overshifting in your hub or in your frame. So if we go ahead and shift it down the other direction, this is a little bit trickier to do because I'm trying to do something that it's not supposed to do. So I'm still thumb back here, and then I come underneath here, and I'm trying to like give it a little bit of a push. So that's not actually shifting too far. That means the limit is correct on there. So if we go ahead and back this off like a good bit, that's still it's just not going to do it on this one, which I guess is a good thing. But this here, if we start tightening it, will move the actual derailleur in or out, or Fortunately on this one, it's just not gonna, it doesn't have enough room to overshift into the frame. So I just don't think it's gonna show us on this particular video. That's a good thing that it doesn't even have enough room to overshift. But that could be a really hard one if you were, shifting through and it overshifted to this. It could jam in this space. On some other bikes, it'll have a bigger gap here. And I've seen it happen many times where the chain gets dropped in there and it's like physically stuck in there where you need to actually pull the wheel out. So in this case, this limit screw isn't going to do a whole lot for us because the frame is doing the job for it.
So Matt, this is a brand new electric bike. So tell me a little bit about perhaps cable stretching and perhaps also a little bit about whether you ever need to adjust the tension on this nut where the cable actually comes through.
Yeah, so those are great questions. First, let's talk about like the cable tension itself. We've got an exposed cable here, and you can see that it's going to be a braided steel cable, and they will stretch over time. A lot of companies are trying to pre-stretch them or buy pre-stretched cables. But you're still going to get a little bit of cable stretch over time. So what that could cause is like the shifting to be a little bit off, a little bit rattly. So, when we made the adjustments before on the derailleur, or the barrel adjuster back here on the derailleur, after a little while, your cable might stretch out and then you'd need to do like a quarter turn or a half turn to get, that cable stretch taken out. In some extreme cases, it might be like a full turn or a turn and a half or something to really get that sound out of there to where it's shifting smooth. The other reason you might need to, loosen the cable here would be because you ran out of room and threads on your barrel adjuster. So if we get down there, you can see there's a little bit of threads showing right there. I would say that's probably a third, maybe a halfway out on the threads left on there. So I'll show you another one that I've seen from maybe inexperienced mechanics or, people, or maybe they are trying to get it to shift at the factory. So what we'll see sometimes is this is like all the way backed out and it's not even in the threads anymore. And that can kind of damage stuff. But if we go, you can see it's got a pretty good length right there. But if we go any further, then I'll just show you. It's not something you want to do at home, but I see this a lot as a veteran mechanic. People screw it out. And so then it's not even in those threads, right? And it's wobbling there. So what you'd want to do at this point, if that was the case, we'd want to go ahead and disconnect that cable entirely. So we're going to disconnect that so we don't ruin our threads on this barrel adjuster. Now these things have got a little spring in there, so you get a little bit of resistance. When you're putting it back in, you need to pull up on this. And then you start your threads. And I always say with anything threaded, if it's not smooth, don't force it. So I'm just going to thread this back in. And when you get it all the way bottomed out, I like to take it like right there is bottomed out. We're going to go ahead and do like half turn and another half turn. Oh. Then we're going to go ahead and get this piece. This actually turned on us a little bit. So this piece, the little L goes towards the back. And if you come up over here, you can see the cable routing right there. So the cable is going to go right up and in there. And we're going to tighten that down.
Now, how snug should you be pulling that?
You want that. I pull pretty hard, and it doesn't matter that much because you can still take up the slack with your barrel adjuster. But starting out, you want it decently tight, pulling with this hand, and then this hand's going to tighten down that the nut on the cable itself.
So that's all there is to it. It may look like it's a very complex system, but in my opinion, if you're a little bit handy or you want to learn, there's no problem with trying to adjust it. Obviously, you can always go to your local bike shop in case you do mess things up or aren't able to figure it out. One other thing that I wanted to touch on, of course, Matt alluded to, we have this awesome park tool stand, which makes it very easy to work on. You also might be able to get some handlebar jacks and flip your bike upside down. Now that's going to be a little bit more challenging to work on. We've also seen some DIY type things where they create a rest for the seat to go on, and you can do some searching online. Otherwise, there are some more affordable bike stands that you can buy.
Anything? Yeah, I've seen people do like, ratchet straps from the ceiling or things like that. The only thing is with a heavier bike, it can be a lot of weight to move around and all of that. So, it's definitely best to have the right tool for the job. But there are some circumstances where you might be able to make those adjustments with a makeshift stand. But
all right, I hope you found this video helpful. If you're looking to purchase an electric bike and you want to support us, check out the links in the description. Thanks to Matt for showing us how Shimano Tourney derailleurs work. Let us know what other questions you have about e-bike maintenance down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
thank you.